go through the door before of like figuring out how great it would be to not have to worry about food anymore and all that stuff. And we had a breakthrough, and I went 30 days without having a problem, and then I caved because everybody's talking about diets and shoving food at me because it was holidays, and I didn't want to be rude, and then I just caved. So then I was back to where I was before.
Yeah, that tells me that your unconditional acceptance was conditional, right? Sometimes you don't know it's conditional until you're in the conditions that make it rigid, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like, I can love and accept myself and I can accept my weight if I don't have to leave my house. But as soon as I leave my house, that freedom goes away. And all of a sudden I have anxiety and, right? So it's like, well, you got to be loving, accepting of the body unconditionally in front of people, at the beach, in a bathing suit, having sex with someone, when your parents don't like you. You know what I mean? So it's like functionally loving unconditionally versus in certain isolated environments, I feel relaxed because I don't feel bad. So that's what that is. So the good news is for a good month there, you know freedom exists. You know it exists.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Right? Because prior to that, you probably didn't even know it existed.
No, I didn't. I didn't think it really existed.
So my question then too is like, so the period of time that you felt good, and we did a consult, two different consults a year apart.
Yeah.
How did you feel after the second time we talked?
Basically where I am now, just kind of thinking, I know you're right, but to do whatever it is that I have to be okay unconditionally, I don't want to do it or can't do it or can't figure out how to do it.
Yeah, or you feel like there's a blind spot. It's like trying to find the target. Yeah. You're trying to find the target blind at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just 40 years almost of being, trying to be what people want.
That doesn't matter. The amount of time doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's that you want people's approval. That's the problem.
Right. Okay.
So however long that is, it's...
How do I not want that or not care?
You would have to approve of yourself, right? So you would have to do it yourself to where the need for someone outside of you or anything, not just other people, just to not need something to feel safe. You have to go into your own vulnerability with yourself first. So if you felt comfortable with yourself unconditionally, what would happen to your need for other people?
There wouldn't be.
Yeah, it would be real loose. It would be really loose and gracious and forgiving, and you'd let people be themselves, and there wouldn't be the neediness, right?
Yeah.
Or the sensitivity. So you may not be needy, but you're sensitive to what they say. So in a way, you are needy to what they say, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I feel like over the past couple of years, I've been getting a little better with that, about caring what people think and letting them be themselves, and who cares if they don't like what I'm saying, but there's still enough of a part of that still there
in you. That so would you say overall you're when you came to me on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the like suicidal, horrible, 2 years ago before we talked, where were you at?
Like an 8.
Okay, so where are you at? Where have you been the past 2 years?
I mean, just a low number. Like, it's just annoying, kind of, to have to still deal with this, but I can see how.
Hey, I just want to say congratulations.
Okay, thank you.
So imagine, I mean, it's like it's not like I gave you an antidepressant or we gave you some type of anti-anxiety drug. You really just changed your perception and you've had a relief. Right? So be grateful for that. Let's not distort where you're at to be worse than it is. There's one thing. However, it would be kind of nice if you really became Free, completely free, right?
Yes, it would be. Like, well, the thought of living how I'm living now is very depressing.
Oh,
So
that tells me you are still not facing something. There's still something you're afraid of that you're not looking at. And so that depression is all of what it takes to keep that fear repressed. So when you actually face what you're afraid of, the way to do that, you're going to have some courage, really, to just accept whatever the outcome is. Because to face it, you have to accept what you're afraid of. That's the only way to face it. So what are you afraid of? Disapproval, rejection? What is it, if you could pinpoint it?
Yeah, I guess disapproval. I mean, the shame of
attached to your weight.
Yeah, how big I am is embarrassing, and
okay,
and you know, unhealthy and hard.
Okay, don't even bring that up because that's nothing.
Okay.
You know it. That's just kind of like, well, I'm brainwashed to think that. It's an illusion. That's like a fear that you don't quite, that's an illusion that you were told about. But that's not even actually the issue. Do you know that science, and they've done studies on physical problems compared to the illusion of a physical problem? If you actually have a physical, like you cut your arm really bad, what's the likelihood you're going to overeat? 0.
Yeah.
Right? The illusion of having something wrong, especially when it comes to being overweight, you're going to overeat. Meaning it's just an illusion. But you're overeating not for that reason, though. That's just like, I have a problem. You were concerned about this shunning, right? If you were to be brutally honest, in priority of what you're really afraid of, are you really afraid of health? More so than you are other people's disapproval?
No.
I know. So that's why I'm like, anytime someone brings that up, I already know that's not the issue, right? If it really was a matter of that, you would not be overeating. Right?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you knew your kidneys were going to explode and you were starting to show signs and it was caused from doing this behavior, would you keep on doing that behavior? No. See how quick and easy that would be? It would be like simple solution. But when it comes to that emotional aspect of people think you're a bad person because your skin's starting to turn yellow because your kidneys are having problems, now you're gonna have, it's that social perception is what's creating your problems. So what do you have to face is the actual rejection? Like being rejected?
I don't know.
Well, feel it out. So the embarrassment, what does embarrassment tell me? If I had embarrassment, if someone else had the feeling of embarrassment, what is that a sign of?
That they're ashamed.
Yeah, yes, there's a shame aspect, but there's also
that they care what people think.
Well, that you also feel that there's something that you are bad.
Yeah.
And it's been exposed.
Yeah.
Right? That means it's been exposed. And that's the hard thing, when it comes to this stuff. Physically, you can't hide that you're in this state, right?
Yeah.
You can't hide it because the body is showing you have this. You're in this state of mind. Physically, it's manifesting, and the assumption is, right, with obesity, you're dumb, uneducated, don't give a shit, are weak, incapable, inferior. Because, the way weight loss is promoted by the diet industry is that it's easy. Mm-hmm. Right? Just see, so just think about that for a second. The way weight loss is sold is like, it's a snap. So easy. You just do this and look how easy it is. That's how it's sold, right?
Yeah.
So people assume, especially people who've never, ever participated, if they believe that, then someone like yourself who's done everything and knows that is a lie, that it's a lie what that media is portraying. The ignorant doesn't know that, right?
Right.
So then what do you look like when all the media and all of the marketing says, it's so easy?
I look like I'm not even trying, or I'm not smart.
You piece of crap.
And you know what's sad is that I'm trained to think that too. So I think that about somebody else, and then I'm like, well, wait a minute, you know.
Hold on. I'm in it, and it's like virtually impossible. And I have all these.
Yeah.
So they actually have studied this, by the way. And I know you've heard the statistics, right? Or maybe you haven't. The statistics of like long-term success maintaining weight loss for longer than 3 years. 3 to 5 years. Do you know what the success rate of that is?
No.
Less than 5%. And the 5%, how many of those people are obsessive compulsive and isolating themselves so they don't regain weight?
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
Okay, so imagine, when the diet industry began in the 1940s, and they started promoting, be healthy, healthy weight, use this dissolving soap.
Yeah.
Take this bath. It's so easy to lose weight. You shake your body in the jiggle machine, and your body can lose weight. Now we know there's literally 0% success. And if they use dieting, so the key is with the diet aspect, if they use food restriction, you're about to have more weight gain afterwards. That science has been very well known since the 1970s. So every time you restrict food, the entire body does its job to keep you alive by kind of pulling away, right? So you restrict and the metabolism tries to compensate by slowing down. And don't forget the psychology around restriction. So our first hierarchy of need around keeping and being safe with food, it creates a rebound effect with our desire to overconsume. They've known this since the 1940s with the Minnesota starvation experiment. There's so much they know. So just keep in mind everything that's scientifically aware of. But yet, right, go back to the 1940s when this all started. No one has ever really looked at the diet industry promoting the ease of this. No one's ever looked to say, hey, this isn't working. You guys suck.
Yeah.
So,
you just think that one doesn't work and you'll try the next one.
And there's something wrong with you. There must be something wrong with you. Not our marketing and promoting that it works for everybody, even though there's no science to substantiate it. Ever. Make sense?
Yeah, so logically there's no way that any diets or restricting food's going to work at all.
No, look at your evidence. Just look at your evidence. Just yours. Do you really need the science to tell you?
No.
What's your knowledge about your experience personally? What's your personal experience restricting food? What happens to your desire to eat? Does it go down or go up?
It goes up.
Okay. What happens to your sense of self-worth when you feel bad about it? It goes down.
It gets worse.
Yeah, it goes down. Right? What happens when you restrict and your body doesn't necessarily lose weight?
You get frustrated.
And then what happens to your food intake?
It goes up.
Yeah, there's so much science that you're normal. You're normal. You're just like everybody else that they see. So, you're the one that should go, well, hold on. Dieting is really hard. Not only is it really hard, but it doesn't work. And it actually has negative like impact to not just the body, but my psychological needs for food go up. Those aren't personal problems you're dealing with. If that occurs for over 95% of all people doing it, is that a personal problem?
No.
Maybe it's a system problem that's conflicting with our nature.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Well, for me, it's somehow I've got to make it permanent. That's not.
So you've internalized it. So that's my point. You believe it. Like, even though you have your own personal experience and it's clearly.
I feel like I believe it. Then you're back out there in society, and you're like, well, wait a minute.
Well, yeah, but you have to. So does society have your experience? I mean, a lot of dieters do, but have they ever questioned the diet industry? No. So you're getting help. What if you question it, right? Even if someone's blind to it and they don't have all this knowledge and they don't have that personal experience, who does? Whose knowledge is more, in terms of recovery, whose knowledge should you be leaning on? Yours or society's?
Mine.
Yeah. Would you say you have a sense of what has been helpful for you and what hasn't? Or are you just straight confused?
It's a little confusing when there was like success for a while with dieting.
You mean success while you're restricting?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually very true. What happens when dieting starts to get hard? What happens when you stop losing weight, but you're still dieting? See, that's the part that no one really talks about, right? You know, when they're selling it and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, because it's the rest of your life with nothing good to eat. And
yeah, they don't talk about that or the primitive state of mind that you have to stay in. Like, you can't actually come out of survival mode. You're stuck in a primitive state of mind, hoarding and organizing and fixating on food and how dangerous it is and how you shouldn't eat it and what you should eat. You're kind of stuck in that obsessive compulsiveness.
Yeah.
Does that sound like it's working?
No.
Is that what you want? Because if you want that, you can. You know you could do that.
No, I want to permanently not care about which kind of food and all that stuff and care about what people think.
Okay, so how are you going to do that?
to not diet and not want to diet.
Well, how are you going to do that if you hate your body?
I don't know. That's the thing.
Well, there is no way. So that's the point. I think that's your spot. That's your spot to contemplate is, I want freedom from this running my life.
Yeah.
Even if you lose weight with a diet. Even if a diet works, right?
Yeah.
And keep in mind, works is relative, because to me, mental illness isn't working.
Right. Yeah.
To me, it's like, I'd rather be morbidly obese, totally rejected, living on my own, isolated. That would be better to me.
Yeah.
Than where you're coming from. Because where you're coming from is crazy train, right? It is depressive. It's dark. I would rather everybody make fun of me. And then, because then they'll make fun of me and they'll move on with their life, right?
Yeah.
Because the world doesn't the world doesn't revolve around me. So once they make fun of me, they'll move on and make fun of someone else because that's what they like to do. And then I'm free. So, I don't know, but that's coming from recovery, though. That's what happens when you're on the other side. You see that.
Yeah.
Why would it matter if someone doesn't think that you're good enough? They think that. They can have that way of thinking. Think about what it takes for someone to be in a state of mind to project onto someone else that they're not good enough. Think about what it would take for me to what state of mind I'd have to be in to be filtering people as good enough or not good enough.
Yeah.
Really sad.
Yeah.
I'm right. They're wrong. They're wrong. Those guys are wrong. I'm right. Just think about how self-centered and narcissistic that is. Right?
Right. And it's impossible to live your life based on those people too, because everybody thinks different things anyway. So
I know, right? So you are totally out of control.
I'm going every direction.
You're so out of control. So the problem is I like to think of it as a probe, your fight or flight survival mode probe. You know, I always visualize a fish at the bottom of the sea, you know, where it's the darkest areas and they don't have eyes. They have a probe out here that,
yeah,
you know, that's what you have. It's like a survival probe. And it was trained to think that people judging you will kill you. And it was trained to think that if you're fat, you're going to die. And so it's constantly seeking those things out. You know, the goal is that you can turn this probe off. Just go click, it's off. I don't need the probe. Right? How do we turn that survival mode probe off?
Just to decide, I don't believe that.
Well, if it turns on, right? If it turns on because you're afraid, if it really turns on when there's something you don't think you can handle. Clearly, it's going to be turned on if you're afraid to die. Number one, right? At the core, down beneath it all, if you're afraid to die, that sucker's on.
Okay.
Right? If you think then that someone disapproving of you, if you can't handle that, now that has a very specific thing to think about, right? To focus on. Avoid disapproval. Avoid that. Oh, there's disapproval right there. Back out. Back away. Right?
Yeah.
And you can imagine if it's connected to obesity that you're going to stay in. You're not going to go out. Because that probe is going to be like, on fire! Everybody's looking at you. Right?
Yeah.
So again, what turns it on is if there's a danger that you don't think you can handle. I can't handle it. I'm too weak. I can't do it. That thing's going to turn on, right? But it's different. Like, let's just imagine you're with a snake. Oh, there's a rattlesnake right there. Well, is it really close to you? Or is it like far away from you? Can you see how the distance changes your fear response? Because if it's further away, can you handle that?
Yeah.
If it's closer to you, can you see how that sense of I can't handle that?
Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of like turning off the probe of people's criticism, you've got to be able to handle it, right? How do you handle criticism?
I just try to figure out if they're right or wrong.
Okay, well, how do you handle criticism in relation to your weight?
Well, really, there hasn't been any criticism, at least in many years.
Okay, but then are you afraid? Are you afraid of abandonment? Are you afraid? Because when you have embarrassment, what is the embarrassment coming from?
It's just made up in my head that I think other people are thinking that.
But you're thinking that, right? Would you say
right.
More so than other people? Maybe it's not other people you give a shit about anymore. I don't know. Think about it. Are you feeling that way about yourself? Like, I can't, I'm a failure. I suck. I'm weak. I'm incapable. Or is it the fact that you know other people think that about you and you believe it? Is it both?
It could be both. I don't
Okay,
know.
so let's just go into what if it's true? What if it's true? What if you are not, you don't have the capacity it takes to be anorexic? You suck at anorexia.
Yeah.
And it always has a horrible after effect. What if it's true?
Well, I mean, I guess apparently everybody sucks at dieting, so.
Well, we're all wired to suck at it. It's like our wiring is like the other direction. So I have some anorexics I work with, and let me tell you, the first thing I typically do when I first start working with an anorexic is I ask, what would happen to your anorexia if you were flown and forced to live in a third world country for a year? Everybody else is emaciated. You wouldn't be special anymore.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah.
Like, and no one's, and everybody's starving. So what makes you special now? The same amount of food you try to force and feel good about, everybody else is doing it because they don't have the option. So you don't even have any control over the fact that you're starving, even though if it's the same amount of starvation. What happens to your anorexia in a third world country? You know what they say? It would be gone. I'm like, yeah, so first world problems.
Yeah.
Let alone trying to live in a third world lifestyle in a abundance everywhere around you. How are you going to do that and be successful? You suck at it. You suck just like everybody else does, trying to maintain a third world ration in a first world abundant environment around you. It's true. What if it's true? Can you handle that? Can you handle that truth? If it's true, could you handle that? Like,
I don't know.
well, all you have to do is just think about it. What if it's true? What would you do?
If I didn't have food?
No, if you if you were the truth of if it's factual, the factual awareness is that you suck at anorexia. You suck at it.
Oh, okay.
It's not your gift. You're not talented there. You're not gifted in it.
Yes, I can handle that. I think that's a good thing.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay.
Right? So accept it. What would happen if you just accepted that? What would happen to your embarrassment about it?
Well, it should go away.
Well, can you feel that, or are you guessing that? Like, really feel it out. What would happen if you could accept that? That you are not wired to diet, period. It always ends in overeating, every time.
Yeah, accept it and move on.
Yeah, well, what happens to your fear of others? Of what happens to the embarrassment?
It disappears because you know that you've been there and done that, and it doesn't work, and you're done.
Yeah. So would you agree then the embarrassment is because you're holding yourself to a standard of capacity that is higher than your truth?
Yeah.
So the embarrassment comes from a standard of ability that is super unattainable.
Yeah.
So you're not questioning that standard, are you? You're just embarrassed about it. Like, oh, I suck. I'm guilty. It's horrible. I suck at it. But not really going, well, that's actually not even realistic for me. Time and time and time and time again. I have 40 years to indicate that that's unrealistic. All of it is. So what should be embarrassed? What should be embarrassed? You or the standard that is set too high for the majority of people trying it? Forever, since the 1940s, the standard have been so goddamn out of this world that it's never worked in almost, 80 years.
Yeah.
So if you accept the nature of reality for you, the truth, even if other people outside of you go, oh, you are just sucky, because they're holding you to that same high standard, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can accept the truth, what happens to your embarrassment?
It goes away.
And what happens now? Let's imagine, how does it feel when someone else is judging you because you're not meeting the standard?
Oh, well, they can believe that, but I don't.
Yeah, you see how you don't internalize it then? Because you're like, well, yeah, they're holding me to some. It's like saying a monkey should be a fish.
Yeah.
They're like basically saying I should go against primitive wiring that evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. Who's more right? Millennia of evolution or someone's random expectation that you should be able to starve yourself and be happy because you're thinner?
Evolution.
Right? So it is what it is. Should we be demonizing that?
No.
Okay, so you believe that fucked up standard and you feel bad about it to the point of embarrassment. So can you see why you might be suffering a little bit?
Right, but why wasn't the standard just the normal evolution way? Why did it?
Well, because it makes. I think there's like, I don't know, the diet industry alone makes like $70 million a year, 700 million. I can't remember the number. Just dieting. That doesn't include nutraceuticals, the pharmacy, it doesn't include the exercise industry. That's just like Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers. And that number's dropping because people are doing the internet version of starvation.
Yeah.
How to starve yourself off and on.
But just to be born into this era, and that's normal.
Well, it started.
So you're saying, if I accept everything, then my body will be fine and just eat when I'm hungry and I'll know how to do it. Because I don't even know anybody that does that.
That's okay.
Okay.
Why do you need someone else to know for you to know that this is truthful?
I don't know. It's just absurd.
It is pretty counterintuitive to the culture of thin supremacy, right? It's like telling someone in China to stop binding their feet.
Okay.
You should maybe stop foot binding. But I'll be alone forever. No one's going to want to marry me, Robin. Well, then don't complain about the fact that you can't walk anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. At some point in China, they had to question foot binding.
Yeah.
Someone had to say, this is messed up. I'm not doing it to my babies. How dare you do that to your children? They'll never get married. No, it's the same thing. It's just the way that it's occurring. And this is new. This is like 100 years old, what we're dealing with. It really got picked up in 1942. 1942 is a very significant year because that was the year the diet industry was born. The current model of dieting started in the 1970s. All right, dearie, I gotta go. This is our 30 minutes. So you have some things to think about. Let's follow up. Okay. What's your schedule like? I don't know. Let me turn this